Germany's role in World War II shaped one of the most destructive conflicts in human history, a war that redefined the political, military, and social fabric of the 20th century. In today's video, we're diving deep into the chronicle of Nazi Germany's rise, its military campaigns, and its ultimate downfall. From the triumphs of the early years to the devastating defeats that marked its end, this is the story of Germany's journey through the Second World War. The roots of Germany's involvement in World War II trace back to the aftermath of World War I. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, left Germany battered both economically and politically. The treaty placed harsh sanctions on the nation, fueling resentment and creating fertile ground for radical ideologies to take root. It was within this landscape that Adolf Hitler rose to power. By 1933, the Nazi Party had seized control, with Hitler as chancellor. His vision? To rebuild Germany into a dominant global power, reclaim territories, and establish a so-called thousand-year Reich. Through a combination of propaganda, economic reforms, and military expansion, Germany amassed strength rapidly in the 1930s. Hitler violated the Treaty of Versailles by rearming the country and annexing territories like Austria in 1938 during the Anschluss. This was followed by the occupation of the Sudetenland in Czechoslovakia under the guise of protecting ethnic Germans, a move that the Allied powers, seeking to avoid another war, appeased during the infamous Munich Agreement. But appeasement didn't last long. On September 1, 1939, Hitler's troops invaded Poland. This act of aggression marked the beginning of World War II. Just 2 days later, Britain and France declared war on Germany. Germany's strategy in the early stages of war can be summed up in one word: blitzkrieg, or lightning war. Utilizing fast-moving tanks, mechanized infantry, and overwhelming air support, this tactic revolutionized warfare. In mere weeks, Poland was overrun, its forces crushed under the might of German efficiency. The Soviet Union, under the secret terms of the non-aggression Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, occupied eastern Poland. This alliance between Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union temporarily secured Germany's eastern flank. The next year, 1940, was another period of astonishing success for Germany. Hitler's forces swept through Denmark and Norway, securing vital access to ports and precious resources. In the spring, Germany turned its focus westward, launching a massive offensive against France and the Low Countries. The Blitzkrieg once again devastated the opposition. Belgium and the Netherlands fell with remarkable speed, and by June, German troops had captured Paris. France, utterly defeated, signed an armistice with Germany. This left Britain standing alone in Western Europe, but defeating Britain proved to be another matter entirely. Hitler's Air Force, the Luftwaffe, launched a persistent bombing campaign against the United Kingdom, known as the Battle of Britain. From July to October 1940, the skies over southern England became the scene of relentless dogfights and bombing raids. Despite Germany's technological superiority, the British Royal Air Force, buoyed by radar technology and sheer determination, managed to thwart Hitler's plans to invade Britain. It was the first major setback for Germany, a sign that Nazi dominance was not invincible. Meanwhile, Hitler was preparing for an even larger gamble: Operation Barbarossa, the invasion of the Soviet Union. Launched on June 22, 1941, Barbarossa was the largest military operation in history, involving over 3 million German soldiers. Initially, the attack was stunningly successful. German panzer divisions wreaked havoc across the vast Soviet plains, and by late 1941, they were closing in on Moscow. But the tide turned during the brutal winter of 1941. Ill-prepared for the freezing temperatures, German troops found themselves bogged down and exhausted. Soviet forces counterattacked, pushing the Germans back from Moscow. Hitler's overconfidence and failure to adequately plan for the difficulties of a prolonged campaign in the East marked one of his greatest strategic mistakes. The slow unraveling of Nazi dominance began in 1942. The Battle of Stalingrad, fought between August 1942 and February 1943, became a turning point. Stalingrad witnessed some of the most ferocious urban combat ever seen in warfare, as German and Soviet troops fought street by street, building by building. Ultimately, Soviet forces encircled and defeated the German Sixth Army. The loss at Stalingrad was catastrophic. It shattered the image of Nazi invincibility and marked the beginning of Germany's retreat on the Eastern Front. On the Western Front, Allied forces were also beginning to gain momentum. In 1943, British and American troops launched a massive invasion of Italy after their victory in North Africa. By 1944, the Allies embarked on perhaps their most daring campaign of the entire war, Operation Overlord, or the D-Day invasion. On June 6, 1944, Allied forces stormed the beaches of Normandy in German-occupied France. The invasion was a logistical masterpiece, with over 156,000 troops landing on the first day. Despite fierce German resistance, the Allies successfully established a foothold, and from there, they began liberating France. Paris was freed by August, and German forces were steadily pushed back toward their borders. As 1945 dawned, Germany's defeat was all but inevitable. The Allies were advancing from the west, while the Soviet forces drove relentlessly from the east. In April, the Red Army encircled Berlin. The Battle of Berlin was brutal and apocalyptic, with German troops and civilians alike defending the city to the bitter end. On April 30th, 1945, Adolf Hitler committed suicide in his bunker beneath the Reich Chancellery. Just days later, on May 7th, Germany formally surrendered to the Allies, bringing an end to the war in Europe. But Germany's fall wasn't just a military defeat. It was a reckoning. The Holocaust, Hitler's systematic campaign of genocide against Jews, Romani people, disabled individuals, and other marginalized groups, had resulted in the deaths of over 6 million people. At the Nuremberg trials, key Nazi leaders were held accountable for their war crimes, and the world confronted the horrors of the regime. In the aftermath of World War II, Germany lay in ruins, its cities destroyed by Allied bombing campaigns, its economy shattered, and its people grappling with the consequences of the Nazi regime. In the aftermath of World War II, Germany lay in ruins, its cities destroyed by Allied bombing campaigns, its economy shattered, and its people grappling with the consequences of the Nazi regime. The nation was divided into 4 occupation zones controlled by the Allied powers: the United States, the Soviet Union, Britain, and France. This division eventually set the stage for the Cold War, as tensions between the Soviet-controlled East Germany and the Western-controlled Federal Republic of Germany deepened. Germany's role in World War II was monumental and catastrophic, leaving an indelible mark on the course of history. The war showcased the devastating consequences of unchecked authoritarianism and the perils of aggressive expansionism. It also highlighted humanity's resilience and ability to come together in the face of such tyranny. As we reflect on this tragic chapter of history, let it serve as a reminder of the importance of peace, diplomacy, and vigilance against the forces that seek to divide us. The lessons of World War II remain as relevant today as they were over 75 years ago. Thank you for watching, and let us know your thoughts in the comments below.